Hello, Southern California, and welcome to this week's edition of Right on the Money. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and I'm joined in the studio by Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, based right here in Southern California. Tom, my friend, it's always great to be with you, and I'm excited to have another awesome conversation.
We've got a good show today, I promise you. A show that's going to apply to people that are close to where you are in age, as opposed to just people who are retiring.
For sure, and I know that's one of your passions, is not only, of course, you specialize as a retirement income planner, but you love helping folks that are younger, because as you've always said, the sooner you can have a plan in place, the easier it's going to be when you approach and enter retirement. And the reality is that not only is today's modern retiree facing many more challenges compared to previous generations, but also people who are in their peak earning working years, those of us in our 40s and 50s, and we're going to specifically focus on the 50s today. But there's some unique challenges, and one of those, you and I were talking before the show, is we are known as the sandwich generation. So many folks are still raising their own children, and yet now also caring for aging parents. And a lot of times, Tom, that financial burden is falling on that individual who's trying to care for both ends of the spectrum at once. And there's a lot of unique things that come with that.
No, I mean, we traditionally hear about the 35 and the 40-year-old who's still at home living in the basement. But I don't run into nearly as many of those as I do exactly what you said. People in their 40s, people in their 50s, and their parents are maybe 70, 75, 80 years of age, and they're having to take care of their parents while their kids are still at home and their children are still in high school, or even worse, their kids are going to college. And you've got, on the one hand, you're caring for your parents because it's a dollar sign, and your parents aren't a dollar sign. Your kids aren't a dollar sign, but when it comes to where we help people, they're a dollar sign. It's going to cost you, and you wonder why you can never get ahead. I had a couple came to me recently, and they said, we're not happy about this, but our parents are no longer here. And we have poured so much of our time into, it's not just dollars, but it's taking off work, taking vacations to go.
It's caring for taking to doctor's appointments and being there for all those important meetings. Absolutely. Yep.
In the Old English scriptures, they talk about when we're older, we should requite our parents, which means pay back, you know? And I get it, I understand it, but the reality is, how do you navigate those waters in the sandwich generation? You may be helping to pay for your mom or dad to get home health care. You may be helping to pay for your mom or dad to be in a nursing home, or you may be trying to sell their properties, or make sure, this is really important,
affairs are in order,
make sure their affairs are in order, because if they're not, it's really going to fall on you, and you are going to need to know their dictates and what they really want to do, and they're gone. So you've got to decide, and you may have your idea of what they want, but a brother or a sister, or even worse, two brothers and two sisters might all have 5 different ideas, that mom told me they wanted to do this, and dad told me they wanted to do that. None of that is in writing. So you're going to have to carry the burden. Now let's go the other way. Your kids are still at home. And you've got travel ball, and you've got dance, and I'm convinced if I started my life over, I might not have been a financial planner. I might have run a dance studio, you know, and I can't dance a lick, I promise you that. And if I could prove it somewhere on this set, sometimes you'd say, he can't dance a lick, but you can run a dance studio because they're so expensive, and you're going to want to provide for your kids. And then you say, I can't wait till they get out of high school and they quit dancing, or they quit costing all of this money for travel ball, because your kid's going to be the next superstar in Major League Baseball. I get it, I understand. And you know what? They get out of school and then they go to college. And they go to college,
expense, right?
And they knock on your door if you're not prepared for it because you've been taking care of mom. You understand what I'm saying? You say, Mom, I relate to that. Well, I guess I've got good news for you. You're not alone. There are a lot of people who are out there, and particularly you might be so close to the forest that you can't really see the trees, so to speak. But you really need during those years to begin to lay the foundation of a financial plan that you're going to live with. So many contingencies. What if mom and dad live for another 15 or 20 years? I hope they do. But how are we going to take care of them? You know, what are we going to do with the kids? In Southern California, where this show goes out initially, you know, you got to deal with the fact that, will your kids ever be able to afford a home in Southern California? And so many of my clients who come in their 40s and 50s, and we start talking to them and building a retirement blueprint specifically for them, and we ask them, we say, what are your plans? What are your goals? What do you see this money doing for you? And it's not uncommon for them to say, my kids will never be able to afford a house in Southern California unless we help them get into that house. So there's all kinds of, and again, I'm telling you, don't say we're abnormal. You're very normal if you're there. I put myself in the same boat right there. So you need to make sure, don't say, well, I'm too busy to start a financial plan. To your point, when we started this segment, so many people wait till they're 60 and they've made so many mistakes of omission because they've not done this and they've not done that.
I'll get to it someday, right? Because I'm so busy in survival mode right now.
Around to it. And I used to have a little deal, a round little flat thing that said "to it," T-U-I-T on it, and somebody would say, I'll do that when I get around to it. Well, I'd give them one, okay? But you're never going to get, from most people, around to it. You've got to do what's necessary, but you keep pushing it aside for the urgency and what's really ringing the bell at the time and going to the time. You need to start laying the foundation for your retirement. I call you, I'm going to call them a name. You're the goose in most cases. And if there's a golden egg in that family, a lot of times it's you when you're in your 40s and your 50s. You're the goose of the family that's laying the golden egg. Think about it. You're the goose that's laying the golden egg for mom and dad. You're the goose that's laying the golden egg for little Johnny and little Sally. And if something happens to you, or if something happens to your golden eggs, then the whole family is in a real mess. And so that's why it's so important, not that you have the ultimate retirement blueprint, but you need a written financial plan and some markers so that you say, okay, I'm 45 now. By the time we're 50, I'm working with a financial planner, and this is where we see ourselves needing to be. And more importantly, I mean, you write that down. This is where we need to be when you're 50s and you've got a dream, okay? But if you say, this is where we need to be when we're 50, and I've worked with a financial planner, and there's a realistic chance that we'll be able to get there if we do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, then you've got a written plan. Then you've got something that if you do get thrown off, okay, readjust, recalibrate. I fly a lot. When I fly from Southern California to Dallas, every time, LAX, Santa Ana, they always take out going west. Dallas is east, okay? And they get out over Santa Catalina Island and they make a big turn and they head east. And they're going a certain direction. You know what they do? If you watch that plane, you fly as much as I do, you get over the Colorado River between Colorado and Arizona and you'll feel that plane go, it'll make a little adjustment. And you get over the white sands there in New Mexico, you can look down and see it and you'll feel that plane go, and it'll make a little bit of an adjustment. Sometimes the pilot comes on and say, we're sorry to tell you we're going to be delayed in our flight. There's a big line of thunderstorms that's between us and Dallas. We're going to go 300 miles north up around Kansas, and we're going to come back down through Oklahoma and land in Dallas. We're doing this for your safety. Sometimes when you get the plan together, you're going to have to make a major diversion. But here's the point. All the time, you're not going to have a plan. And you're probably not going to get to where your chosen destination if you don't have a plan. You have to have one in place so that you can legitimately divert from it. And it particularly is true if you're listening to me and you're in your 40s and your 50s and you're in that sandwich generation. And what do we do, mom and dad, kids, what do we do for our Don't neglect yourself. What do we do for our own plan? And you're the one that needs to call in and say, I need a retirement blueprint. Not that I'm ready to retire, but when I get there, I want to be prepared. When that pilot gets to the DFW airport, there's within about 200 yards there's a spot I want him to land on.
Absolutely.
And that's your spot for retirement. And you may go north, south, you may go way around, but getting there is your ultimate goal. And you're not going to get there in most cases unless you have a written plan. That's what we offer you.
It's so true, Tom. And to continue that flight analogy, they always tell you what? If we need oxygen, you put on your oxygen mask first so that you can serve the others that are around you. This is your opportunity. This is your financial oxygen mask, if you will. This complimentary retirement blueprint. As Tom said, you can't make adjustments when you need to if you don't have the solid plan in place. And we know that this can feel really overwhelming. Even if all of this is new to you, the good news is it's not new to Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. They are here to help and serve you. So we encourage you, pick up the phone, call that number on the bottom of your screen, 866-709-1462. You can also take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Mosley Wealth Management will reach out and connect with you to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary retirement blueprint that way as well. More on today's episode right after this.
My company now, we're up to 12 people, and we have 6 advisors and 6 support staff. Our main office is right across the street from Anaheim Stadium in Anaheim, right above the Partners Credit Union. We're on the 2nd floor above that, but we have a satellite office now in Glendale, north of downtown LA. Out east, we're in Chino, and then down in San Diego, we have a really quickly growing office down in Scripps Ranch. We're still a little bit like mom and pop. We don't just like our staff and our employees. We love them. We have lunch together. I bring in lunch on Mondays, and we spend about an hour just talking about the weekend and talking about life with all 12 of us that are there. There's some businesses where everybody pulls together and where everybody pulls their own way. It's definite in our company that everybody pulls together. We care about each other. It blesses my heart to see a couple of my new advisors come in on a Monday, and they're talking about the fact that they took their wives out together, the 4 of them, and went out for dinner on a Saturday night. In fact, one noted person told me recently, he said the chances that somebody would start a business and in your area and get to where you guys are at Mosley Wealth Management is about probably 1 in 50,000 because of the success we've had and the focus we've had on working with people to make sure they don't run out of money.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're watching Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and a very important conversation that we are having for those of you that are in your 50s, or if you have someone you love who is in their 50s. This conversation is very pertinent because, of course, you work with a lot of folks who are already retired or entering or approaching retirement. But to your point, having that solid plan in place, the sooner the better. And you mentioned a great analogy before we got started. You were talking, or in the last segment rather, we were talking about flying from California to Dallas. Go ahead and make that point that you shared with me during the break.
Well, if you're going to fly from here to Dallas, the number one thing you've got to know is where you are right now. Because where is here? Okay, here might be Phoenix, here might be Albuquerque, here might be Seattle. You've got to know where you are, and that's the first thing. Where you're starting from. Yep. Right. And I brought out my pen because what we have is we're continuing the analogy. If you're going to fly from here to Dallas, if you've ever watched the pilot in the cockpit when they're open and before, as you're getting on the plane, sometimes they bump me up to first class and I'm able to see in there, and they've got this sheet and they're checking things off.
Right.
So we've got a checklist to help you
right?
to go through. Yeah, it's like a grocery list to make sure you've got all of those things. We've got a checklist to go through to make sure that pilot gets you to your destination.
And this really helps remove the overwhelm, because I think a lot of folks either kick that can down the road of, oh, I'll get to this someday, because maybe they don't necessarily know what they need to be doing or when you need to be doing it. So that's why we've prepared this checklist for you. So what is the first item on our checklist? The
first thing is you got to know where you are. We talked about that. If you're in Santa Ana, you got to say, okay, I'm in Santa Ana. So I'm going to cross that one off.
All right.
The second one is you need to know where you're going. So we've decided we're going to Dallas. Now, where are you going? in Southern California, you may be going to move out of Southern California. That's a big financial decision. You may be going to follow where your kids have moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, or Dallas, Texas, or that might be why you're flying to Dallas. But you need to know where you're going. I don't know very many people who come in and they don't want to travel in retirement. So your checklist will be, where are you going to go? What's your bucket list? You say, wait a minute, this is a financial show. Right. It's going to take money to go to Venice. It's going to take money to go to Amsterdam. It's going to take money to take that river cruise. Bora Bora, they don't give it away. So you need to know where you're going, what you're doing. The house, are we going to fix up the house, or are we going to move into a smaller, are we going to downsize? I've had so many ladies come in and they say, I don't want to clean 5 bedrooms anymore. And
I don't need it. I don't need the space. It's more of a hassle than anything. Yeah.
I don't. So all of those are financial decisions that you need to project. And if you're going to be really prepared to do it, you can't make that decision one week and retire the next week and then pull that into options. So define where you're going. Number 3, I would say check your retirement accounts. Your retirement accounts are some of the fuel. That's that guy who's out there who's putting the fuel in your plane to get you where you want to go. They bring that big truck in there and they tap it into the wing. And I don't know much more after that, but I just know that I smell the diesel or I smell the jet fuel.
All I know is I hate that smell.
Oh, I do too. But that, and I hate the smell sometimes of not taking all my money and spending it now. But building those retirement plans, the people who don't do it are not going to get to Dallas. They're not going to get where they want to go. So you need to have some assessment on your retirement plan. Do I need to put it in a pre-tax plan and save the tax on it right now? Do I need to put it into a Roth option that I might have in that 401k? Wait a minute, Tom, I don't even have a 401k. Far more important then, because you need to start a regular IRA or a Roth IRA. Think of putting the fuel into the jet. That's what's going to take you. You say, well, how much fuel do I need? That's your plans and your goals. Where do you want to go? If I want to go from Dallas, I need X amount of fuel. But if I want to go to Venice, Italy, I probably need 6 or 7 times that much fuel.
Right.
And they don't stop and they don't fuel along the way. They put enough in there to get you all the way. That's why it's so important. If you're in your 40s out there and you're not working with a financial planner. Oh, I will when the time comes. The time is now. You need to start saying, this is what we want to do in retirement. Get some goals, get some things to look forward to, and that way you'll know how much fuel to put into the tank. That's your retirement plans, your IRAs, your 401ks, and those things.
And I love that one of your goals is to help folks dream for their retirement, and you're helping people figure out what you can do in retirement, not what you can't do. This process should be a lot of fun. It's not all, oh gosh, stressful. It should be part of that is, okay, making your money work for you. You've worked hard, you've saved all these years. Now you get to dream and figure out where it is you want to go.
We should do a show sometime on all of the emotional turmoil you go through in retirement. A lot of people find their significance in their job.
Yep.
They have their
identity
friends.
crisis, right?
Exactly. They have their friends at their job.
Yep.
They have the routine, and we're creatures of habit, and they have the routine of Monday through Friday. They go, and I've had people come in at retirement and say, we spent more time with the people at our employment, place of employment, than we did with our family when they were growing up and when we were in our working years. So all of those things change, and if you don't prepare yourself for those emotional changes, you could really, really be in a mess. Listen, we've got some more on the checklist. We probably won't get to it all, but you need to call in and you need to get your retirement blueprint. We need to build a checklist for you, not flying from Santa Ana to Dallas or LAX to Dallas, but we need to fly wherever you want to fly in your retirement. Make sure you have enough fuel. That means assets to get there. The only way we can help you do that is if you call in.
Tom, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, that number to call to get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint from Mosley Wealth Management is right there on the bottom of your screen. Simply dial 866-709-1462. And again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code, and that will get you connected as well. More checklist items that you need to be thinking about as you think towards ahead of where you're going and what you want your retirement to look like right after this.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and we are working through a checklist of things you need to be doing in your 50s in order to prepare for retirement. And we're trying to remove the overwhelm from the situation. We recognize that a lot of this might be new to you, and I think, Tom, that's why a lot of folks often are scared to reach out or scared to start this process and keep kicking that can down the road. But you remove the overwhelm, and the number one cause of financial failure is procrastination. So we are taking every excuse off the table today to set you up for success. So let's continue on that checklist.
I like what you said. I don't ever intend on retiring. I grew up on a farm in Georgia. I intend to work as long as God gives me health and strength and the ability to do it and the mind to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really do. I'm very busy even at this point. I love taking...
No signs of slowing down.
No signs of slowing down. I love taking breaks and going all over Europe and all over the South Pacific and doing those kind of things, and I schedule those in on a regular basis. I practice the planning aspect that we've talked about. But I also realize that so many people have never retired, or they're never the age that I have attained, I'll say it that way, and it's scary because they don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
I have the advantage of, I know the guy who could fire me, and I'm not going to fire myself, okay? And so as long
It's
as
a good
I'm
place to be.
as long as I'm capable.
Right.
Let's go back to the checklist though, okay? When you're getting ready to retirement, one of the biggest things you can do is check off the list of your debt, because your debt can drag you down. I liken it to, if you're carrying a big debt, if you're carrying your mortgage, if you're going to stay in Southern California, try to get your house paid off. You say, Tom, so many people tell me this. My advisor told me not to pay off my house. Why does the advisor not want them to do that? They don't want them to do that because they want to keep managing the money that they might use to pay off their house.
Right.
Let's talk about contentment. Forget finances right now. The most contented people I have in my family of clients are those people who have their house paid off. And I liken it, another sports analogy, to running the high hurdles. If you still have that debt, every month you have to run that mortgage payment. It's the biggest thing people have in Southern California. But if you've got your house paid off, you still have insurance, you still have the taxes that you have to pay, but you're running the low hurdles in retirement. You really want to have a contentment in retirement? By the way, Kristin, most of the people who come to work for me want to live in a house the rest of their life.
Shocking, right?
That's a basic assumption, okay? And if you want to stay in a house and live in a house, and that's the one you're going to live in, get it paid off. And it's not something that benefits me. Again, the fiduciary of me comes out.
Right.
It's what's best for you. Get the house paid off. So if you're in your 40s and you've got a refi come up, don't refi right now. You should have refied 2 years ago. But if you're in your 40s and you want to retire at 60 and you're 45 years old, refi on a 15-year note. Get that thing paid off by the time you're 60. And if you say, well, I refied, but I took a 30, just pay extra.
Right.
I saw the calculation one time. If you pay one extra month per year from the beginning of a 30-year note, it'll be paid off in 22 or 23 years. So get the house paid off. Get the credit cards paid off. The other thing I see is Parent Plus loans. And for goodness sakes, if your kid has 2 master's degrees already, and you're wanting to pay for a third one, I'm going to say let the kid become an adult. You know what I'm saying? And let them pay for their own. I'm sorry, I'm a little harsh there, but the first 2 master's degrees should have made enough money to pay for the third one if they're all beneficial, if you know what I mean. So
tough love from Tom is always coming from the right place, though.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I understand. I got it. But get the debt out of the way. And then the next one on here, increase what you're saving. If you're contributing to a 401k, if you're contributing to a Roth 401k, if you're contributing to an IRA, if you're contributing to a Roth IRA or a SEP plan if you own your own business, Simplified Employee Pension IRA, then every year, including 2024, the opportunity to put more and more and more money into those plans, it goes up every year.
For people over 50, it's called the catch-up contribution. So this is why this is so critical for those of you in your 50s to know, because some people feel like, oh, I've missed the boat, or I should have done this earlier. Well, the government actually gives you this provision to put even more money away into those plans.
I laugh when I think about that even the government recognizes that people are behind the 8 ball for retirement. And so they built into their provision on retirement accounts, let's give people over 50 a catch-up, because at 50, maybe the kids are out of the house. Maybe the parents aren't being a
caregiver.
I was trying to search for the word, because they're not a burden. But you know what I'm trying to say is they're not draining on the finances as well. That's the time to catch up. And even the government will allow you to do that. So there's so many things that you can do if you've got a plan. We call it a retirement blueprint. Let me go through them and show you. When you retire, you're not going to have a paycheck except from your self-employed at that point from your savings. So we help you put together a retirement income plan. Okay, Social Security is involved in that. If you've got a pension, that's there. We make sure it's indexed for inflation, because you're going to need more and more money through the years, okay? We also look at your investments, like we talked about last week on the show. What's your risk level? What's your tolerance for risk? And what's your portfolio? We look at that thoroughly. We make sure we're invested the way you need to be invested. Taxes, we haven't talked about that in a couple of weeks, but we did 3 weeks ago. Talk about your taxes. How much tax am I going to have to pay through the years? Your health care. Do I need long-term care? If I retire before I'm 65, how do I bridge that for me, or if you're married and your spouse is younger, till they become 65? Your health care is important. And then leaving it as a legacy. That's a retirement blueprint. I don't know anybody who doesn't need that 40, 50, or 60, but you've got to call in to get it.
Tom, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, if any of this resonated with you, the reality is you spend so much time caring for others. It's time to let someone care for you. You don't have to be an expert in any of this. You just need to be an expert in you, and the team of Mosley Wealth Management is there to meet you and serve you along the way. We appreciate you watching. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next week.